since there, you know.
Welcome to The Reasoning. I called this The Reasoning because I think there's a reason behind everything that we do in life, a reason behind the choices we make, the things we say, and a reason behind the art we make. And growing up in a West Indian household, I'm Jamaican and Dominican, a lot of the elders in my family would always say, yo, I'm just a reason and I'm just reasoning. And so I just thought, you know what, why don't I include that in the things that I'm making in my art moving forward? So that's why we decided to call this session The Reasoning. So thank you for coming. I've taken a long break from music. I've been probably acting for the last 10 years. And I'm reactivating again in the music space. I have a new album that I'll be releasing.
Round of applause, please. Round of applause. Good,
Love. The album name is Being Poor is Expensive. The album is really like a reset for me, and it talks about coming of age in my part of the capital, in northwest London. I grew up in I would say a stereotypically Caribbean household, Jamaican, Dominican, West Indian food. I think something that probably unites us here is planting. So we had a lot of...
Plantain.
Yeah. All divides up.
We're not even gonna start. You know, I grew up in the London borough of Brent. I would say it's like a deprived neighborhood for where we grew up. There's a lot of crime, lack of opportunity, and I speak about that in the album, just trying to find myself coming up and avoiding a lot of potholes and a lot of the trappings of the ends of the hood. I say a line on the album, I say I assume everyone's ends is as violent as mine. So for me, just walking around London, driving around London, there were loads of, I would notice a lot of similarities.
And it's mad, because listening to the album, I was playing a track today, and you said is it your granddad came on a boat?
Granny came on a boat.
Granny came on a boat is the lyric. Same as mine, you know what I mean? Granddad worked for Ford.
Granddad worked for Ford.
Yeah, he worked for Ford as well, yeah. So yeah, it's like, you know, coming over from Jamaica, moving to an area like Canning Town, which is, you know, typical, supposedly from the same place, like typical white area and all the struggles that come along with that and them making their way. My mum came over also on the boat and giving birth to me and my brother, and it's just like, we're just out there. They're just out there in the workplace trying to just get by and make some money, and we always had love at home and direction to a certain degree, but when your kids are outside, your kids are just outside. All you can do is make sure you come home from work, they come home from school and there's food on the table, but in between that time, you don't know what's going on, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of trappings and times where things could easily go left, and you speak about it on the album, like crucial times, like you said, you sound like you got into an altercation and drew for something, and it's like, he's lucky I never caught him. I'm lucky I never caught him, you know? How much that win could have been such a loss for you, you know? And so yeah, there's a lot of similarities in like my upbringing and yours, but it wasn't until like finding like-minded people that was into what I was into, making music, and you kind of find your tribe, you find your circle, and then things started to lead in a good direction. You know what I mean?
I'm like first generation like African in this country, as in like my mum moved here. So kind of like similar to what you said in terms of like, you know, in terms of like the disappointment of your mum and knowing where you're coming from and what people have kind of put on the line to kind of put you in the position that you're in now. Really struck a chord with me because that's where I'm coming from, if that makes any sense. And I feel like, obviously now, I think the most important thing in life is actually information. And I think, obviously, like they came over here, like this was kind of like the promised land sort of situation. Canning Town's not the promised land. But yeah, for me, it's just been about trying to establish some sort of legacy to kind of make my family proud for, you know, making such an effort to put me in a position that they put me in, if that makes sense. Opportunity.
Opportunity, yeah.
But what I loved about your story is you spoke about the jobs that you had. I never hear that on albums.
Yeah.
People will have jobs and never talk about that bit. They will talk about the outside bit when they're outside, but you talk driving the bus from Mill Hill and back Mill Hill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you was MCing then, like, how were those times?
It was tough, because what I didn't want to do is I could see like friends and stuff that were my age and like people that I was growing up with, like they were going to jail and getting in trouble with the police, and I didn't, that wasn't for me. I never wanted to go to jail, and really I didn't want to disappoint my mum and my dad, like, and it was tough for me, right? I was, at that time, I think I'd just released Black Boys, and people were recognizing me on the bus. So I'm driving the bus and people are pulling up, when people are getting on the bus and they're saying, "Swear you're Bashy." And I would say, "No, it's my brother." So I would pretend it wasn't me. I feel like I always had a goal, and I saw a vision for myself that this isn't gonna be the end. I'm gonna keep on grafting, I'm gonna save the money and use that money for studio time, and that's what I did.
You know, those of us who grew up in those environments, those of us who have kind of like done well out of the Black British community, I'm often speaking to people who have no conceptualization of what it means to be working from a place of lack.
Yeah. If you're not from there, like, you won't understand like what it's like to be growing up in those environments, and be like in West London as well, where sometimes we were so close to it, right? So I'm growing up in where I used to live in a place called Brunel Estate, and it's a grey brutalist block designed in a harsh way. I actually went back there, maybe I left there when I was about 8 years old, and I went back when I was maybe like 29. And when I was growing up, I remember thinking, like, it was fine, right? I was a kid, the place felt huge to me. I remember going back as a 29-year-old, and I cried when I went back to the apartment. The ceilings were so low. The bedroom, which I thought was humongous, was tiny. I called my mum and I said, "Mum, like, come, like, we've gone into one of the flats. Do you want to come and have a look?" And she came down, and I was like, "We live there." And she was just like, "Yeah." And we're putting people to live in these kind of environments. And then up the road is like High Street, Kensington, Notting Hill Gate, multi-million-pound houses, shops, like Central London, Bond Street's not far. So these are the things that you're aspiring to, but you might not in that moment have the job or the finances to be able to get that. But the streets and that are showing you ways where you can get it. And I just think human nature, the desire to want it, and it's put in your face all the time. You, as a kid, when you're impressionable, you can go down that path. I got a song on the album called Sweet Boys Turn Sour. So that what that song is about is just being in the comfort of my own home and being this sweet boy, and then coming out into Northwest London, and then slowly but surely I'm starting to become what I'm seeing.
Just wanting to like see from your perspective, going off into another field and becoming really successful in acting. How has that affected your music making? Like, because there's a level of maybe like comfortability, not having to rush, you know what I mean? Just things in your own time, being able to make the record the way you want it to. You've got the money to fund it or whatever. No one's telling you what to do. Like, how has that changed things?
I think everything like what you just said.
Yeah.
So I think being successful in another field gave me the freedom to make the album that I wanted to make and tell the story without compromising. I just wanted to make an album that was as honest as possible, and every line that I wrote in the album, if I thought I was embellishing or exaggerating or anything like that, I started again, put a line through it, and then went again. I just really wanted to drill down on the truth. But you said something a second ago, and you was talking about finding your tribe, And Enny, you wrote a line on one of your tracks, and when we will come together as a tribe, and that's what's intended to be, I just want to be free. So I just feel like we've got like similar themes as artists. Like there are like lines that I will hear in some of your tracks and Kane's tracks where I'm like, raw, actually that's something, I've got a similar line that's either out or one that I was thinking of or one that I haven't even had out yet. So what was that behind like your line?
I think more so just about unity within our communities, especially like as young black women, but also just as black people in general. I felt like there was a disconnect, especially amongst like black men and black women. And so I feel like that line was just more the conversation about us coming together in that. I feel like there's a little bit of a edge between black women and black men, and I think a conversation needs to be had about it. And so it's just about highlighting that. I'm
sure people in the audience haven't heard the record yet, but so it's fucking ridiculously sick, by the way. It's like, but it's so good in a way that it doesn't make sense because you haven't rapped for so long publicly. If you was to come back with new music at the level you were, I would have said, well done, you know what I mean? Like there was no drop off. Like you're still as good as you were, even after not rapping that long. But you've come back on like the growth and the technical ability, like it's unbelievable. Like how?
The first time I went to the studio after not recording for a long time, I went with my mum. I was like, because I was feeling like, nah, man, you can't be shook in front of your mum. You get me? When you're in the studio. So I went with my mum, and then, and then I started recording. And then I brought the family to the studio, similar to really just learning from kind of you, just keeping your family around you close, and then that puts you in a comfortable position. So I would say that like community helped to do that, man. And then I started penning, and then I made the bulk of the album with Toddla, who was just on it during the pandemic, and then Casa came in and done some additional production, and Kevin over there at the back, and it just really helped. They really helped to uplift me and just pouring love into me. That's what I was saying earlier, just like the brotherhood of you. It's important to keep good people around you, because they were just like, nah, come on, man, you can do it. You're important to the culture. You're this, you're that. All things that I didn't think about myself. Like it's hard when you're the artist. Like you're just like imposter syndrome, scared, just a lot of doubt, and then the people pouring into me. Eventually, I started to power up again and started to pen, and then I felt confident. I think that's where like brotherhood and friendship is important, because being around you've invited me to studio sessions. Being around Gigs has invited me to studio sessions, and just coming in, sitting down, listening, staying involved in the culture. Posty, that's what I was saying. When I was saying earlier about you keeping me close to the culture, even though I was in another space, that was important in keeping me sharp. Like what I was saying to Enny earlier, like I came across your music in 2020, and it was Pen Black Girls, right? And I was like, wow, because that kind of made me feel like, gave me that feeling of when I wrote Black Boys, and I was like, whoa, like just, I don't know, man, it just filled me with something. I watched the video, you were in traditional wear, and it's just like, wow, this is crazy. This is someone like proper being their authentic self, where I felt like I couldn't be like that fully at the time. So that gave me, you helped to give me the confidence to be like, nah, man, I can be myself. So moments like that as well.
I grew up like this is like a very sick moment for me, because like, I studied your lyrics. Like I can recite your Tim Westwood freestyles, like that kind of like intensity. So even hearing the album, when I listened, it was like a fulfilling moment of my younger self, because it was like, you've grown up and you're an adult now, and I'm an adult. So there's like a new perspective, and it's like the wordplay, like everything's sick, the beat choices, and so it's like a full circle moment of like of you, me watching you in a weird way. So like, yeah.